Hi guys, Ray from RGT Canada. We did a few clinics and demos at the schools earlier this month, and I've had quite a few emails from students specifically inquiring about the tapping licks that we played during the rock segments. So obviously we have quite a few shredders out there. I thought I'd make this video and give you guys some insight into some of the licks I was playing, and more importantly, what I was thinking and what interval scales or shapes the licks are coming from. This way you guys can take the concepts and create your own tapping licks. Now if you're watching this, I'm going to assume you understand what tapping is. This isn't going to be a lesson on how to tap or put your finger here and do this. It's going to be more geared towards, once you can tap, here's some simple ideas and concepts to help you expand your playing. Also, I rarely tap on one string. It's been done to death and I just don't find it interesting. So all the ideas I'll be showing you today will use multiple strings. If you are just starting out with tapping or you aren't quite comfortable, by all means take these ideas and practice them on one string until you get the hang of it. Now, the one thing I should mention is the guitar sound I am using. For those of you that know me or studied with me before, you know I rarely use any kind of high gain sounds. The sound I'm using for this particular video, however, is quite aggressive. Now the reason for the high gain is, A, these are rock licks. You're going to get some pretty strange looks if you try to throw these into a jazz standard. And B, the gain makes it considerably easier to play legato. If you try these licks with a clean sound, you will find it much more difficult to get the hammer-ons and pull-offs, especially with your fretting hand. So I just wanted to point that out, as you might want to use some gain when first practicing these licks. So enough talk, let's jump in and cover some of these concepts. Let's start off with one of the simplest ideas I constantly use. Quite often I will take a 3-note per string scalar mode, any scalar mode will do, and I'll tap it out. Let's start off with our friendly C major scale and I'll show you what I mean. Okay? For those of you not familiar with the C major scale, the notes I'm playing are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now we're moving to the second octave. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay? No sharps and flats, C through C, all the way through the position. Now what I will do is I'll take the first 2 notes of each string and I'll fret them with my left hand. I will then tap the 3rd note of the string with my right hand. That's going to give me this. Now the first thing most students will say is, well, I can do that with one hand. And yes, you can. Etc., etc. What I like about this approach, however, is the speed in which you can turn the idea around. The big advantage by tapping this is how fast we can change direction. Okay? Again, this simple idea can be applied to any 3-note per string scale. Experiment with all the scales and modes you know and find the ones that work best for you. Another idea that will come up quite often in my playing is the tapped arpeggio. Again, this is a very simple and straightforward concept and produces some great sounding results. I simply take any diatonic arpeggio and I tap it out. Let's keep things in the middle area of the fretboard and in a guitarist-friendly key, and we'll use E minor 7 as an example. The formula for the minor 7 arpeggio is root, flat 3, 5, flat 7. In E minor 7, this produces the notes of E, G, B, D, and if we go to the second octave, E, G, B, D. Just like we did with the previous scale idea, I'm simply going to lay this arpeggio out so I can play it 3 notes per string. 2 notes with my left hand and the 3rd note tapped with my right hand. Let's start by playing the root E and the flat 3rd of G with our left hand. We'll then take the 5th note, B, from the D string, and I'm going to relocate it to the A string on the 14th fret. This gives us root E, 7th fret, flat 3rd G at the 10th fret, and on the A string we have the B at the 14th fret. Our next interval in the arpeggio will be the flat 7 or D. To get this, we're simply going to skip over the D string and grab the D note on the G string at the 7th fret. So far we have E, G, B, D. Let's continue to the 2nd octave by adding the root E on the G string at the 9th fret. And then we can tap the flat 3rd G at the 12th fret. Now we can skip over the B string, grab our 5th B on the high E string. That's the 7th fret. The 10th fret will give us the flat 7th or D. And we can wrap it up by playing the root E at the 12th fret. Okay. Again, one of the nice advantages to tapping this arpeggio is that you can quickly change direction mid-arpeggio. If I was trying to sweep this, I'd have great difficulty trying to change direction halfway through. Now that we have our basic minor 7 arpeggio shape down, let's mess around with it a little bit. If we replace the flat 3rd or G at the 12th fret, and let's replace it with the 4th, which is an A, and we'll do this at the 14th fret. We now have all the notes of an E minor pentatonic scale. We can do the same thing on the high E string, and let's swap out our root E, and we're going to swap it out for the 9th, which is the F sharp. We're going to get this on the 14th fret of the high E string. That's going to give us this. The only note we're not playing is the 6th, so this gives us a great little lick that will fit into any situation where you would normally play a Dorian or Aeolian sound. Now this process can be applied to any arpeggio form. Let me give you another example. Keeping things in E minor, let's look at E minor's relative major of G. Looking at the notes of a G major 7 arpeggio, we get the root G, the major 3rd of B, the 5th of D, and the major 7th of F sharp. And of course the 2nd octave, G, B, D, F sharp. Let's spread this arpeggio out across the strings the same way we did with the E minor 7th arpeggio. On the A string we'll play the root G and the 3rd B with our left hand. We're going to relocate the 5th from the D string to the 17th fret on the A string. Okay, so far we have G, B, and D. Root 3, 5. We're then going to skip over the D string and grab 7th or the F sharp on the 11th fret, and then we can grab the root G on the 12th fret of the G string. Okay? We can now tap the 3rd, which is the B, with our right hand. We can skip over the B string, we'll grab the 5th of D. That's the 10th fret of the high E string. Then we'll grab the 7th, which is F sharp on the 14th fret of the high E string. And we can tap the root of G with our right hand. Here's what we have so far. Again, same principle as before with a different shape. Experiment with any arpeggio you like and come up with some of your own ideas. Another idea I use quite often is to tap out notes from a simple minor pentatonic shape. Our last example was in E minor, so let's stay there for the moment. Let's start by playing the E minor pentatonic at the 12th fret. Everybody knows this shape. Okay, our notes are E, G, A, B, D, and then up to the 2nd octave, E, G, A, B, D, E, G. I'm pretty sure you're all fairly familiar with this shape. What I will do is simply play this exact shape with my left hand only. With my right hand, I will add intervals from the same minor pentatonic scale. Let's start with B. So I'm going all the way up here. This is my 19th fret, and I'm hitting my B. Next up, we have our root, which is E, our fourth, which is A, our flat 7, which is D. Keeping things within E minor pentatonic, we have to jump up here. This is going to give us our flat 3rd of the G. We're now on the 20th fret. And then we have to jump back down, okay, to the 19th fret again for the 5th of B. Interval-wise, here's what we have just played with the right hand. We have our 5th, our root, our 4th, our flat 7, our flat 3rd, and our 5th. Note-wise, it gives us the notes of B, E, A, D, G, and B. Now that I have my basic shape laid out, let me demonstrate it for you. Okay? Now here's where the fun begins. Let's try the same shape, but let's try some string skipping ideas. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip strings. I'm going to start on the E string. Now I'm going to skip over the A string to the D string. Something I like to do a lot is I'll just add the notes from, say, just my left hand. So here we're going to go back to the B and the A. So I got this. I'm going to strip over to the G string and do the same thing. Okay, so let me give you an idea of what this will sound like all together. Or something similar. Again, I will change this idea depending on what I'm playing over, what the feel is, how many bars I have to fill, etc., etc., etc. You can go all the way up, or you can come just down only, whatever works for you. The idea is just to take a simple pentatonic shape and try sequencing it similar to this, or just go straight down the scale. You know, whatever works best for you. Try this with your other pentatonic shapes. This is a great idea you can get a lot of mileage out of. Another idea you can get a lot of mileage out of is to take any simple shape or arpeggio, 1 octave shape or arpeggio, and lay it out over 3 octaves on the fretboard. Let's move to the key of A, A minor. And let's take a look at some ideas down in this area of the neck. Starting on the low E string, let's grab the flat 7th of A, which is G. Okay, so I'm all here G on the 3rd fret. Next we're going to grab the root of A, and then we're going to look at the 9th of A, which is B. I'm going to do the same pattern on the A string now, which is going to give us the flat 3rd of C, the 4th of D, and the 5th of E. So what we're going to do now is just take this idea up over 3 octaves, the same notes. This is another idea I'll use quite often. You can apply this idea to anything, whether it be an arpeggio, a shape, whatever you have. A good example, let's take a simple arpeggio shape. We'll stay in the same key. Let's go with the C. So what we got here is we're going to look at the notes of a C major 7 arpeggio, which is going to give us the C, the E, the G, and then we would have B. What I'm going to do is relocate the B from the D string on the 9th fret. I'm going to relocate it right here. Okay, this is B on the 14th fret of the A string. Now we can take the same idea and we can run it over 3 octaves. Okay? Again, it's a very simple idea, very simple arpeggio, and we're just running it over all 3 octaves to get that wide interval sound. Another thing we can do is we can add the major 7th before it. And you can do this anywhere as well. Again, experiment with all of these ideas and you come up with your own. It's just a very simple concept of taking an arpeggio and laying it out over 3 octaves with a tap. Now, another thing you can do is to take all of the concepts that we have covered so far and mix them all up. So you're basically playing a little bit of each, whether it be the scale, move to a mode, or 3-octave idea, all into one big kind of long lick. Let me give you some examples. We're going to stay in the key of A minor. And very similar to how we did the E minor pentatonic lick up here on the 12th fret, we're going to do something very similar for A minor pentatonic now. What I'm going to do is just take the two shapes. I'm going to play the A minor with my left hand, the way I would. And I'm basically going to tap the A minor notes up. Okay? The notes I'm playing, so you can see what I'm doing here. We have the D note here. We have C. Okay? And we have A. So we have D, C, A. Then we're moving over here. We have our A note on the B string, moving to the G on the B string, and we're moving to E. Okay? Moving up to the G string, we have our E note here. We're then moving up to the D, and we're blocking off with the C. Okay? Now, when we get to this point in the scale, I'm just going to switch over to we can do anything we want, but I'm going to choose to switch over to an Aeolian sound. The Aeolian sound is going to give us, we're basically going to add our flat 6 now. Now, if we kept it minor pentatonic, I would have to come up here for the C. I'm instead going to add the second, or the B. I'm going to go to the flat 6, which is our F here, and then I'm going to finish it off with CBA. So I'm basically looking at this. Again, we can change direction, we can string skip a little bit in here. I'll give you some examples. Now here I went down to the G. This actually will help set us up for another run. We can do that 3-octave run that we did earlier, coming up from the G. Okay? If I put that all together, I'm going to have something that sounds like this. Okay, let me play that a little slower for you. And up to speed. So you can see that everything I just covered there is just little bits and pieces of the exercises we already covered. They're just mixing them up, so to speak. It's a great way to keep some of these concepts fresh and to mix things up a little bit for you. Well, I hope you're able to get at least a few ideas from these concepts. As you can see, when you break down what I'm actually playing, the thought process is painfully simple. Remember, the whole goal here was to give you some basic concepts so you could come up with your own licks, not just to copy a bunch of riffs that I'm playing. Of course, if you like something, by all means add it to your arsenal, but pull it apart and learn from it so you can create your own lines as well. If any of the terms I was using, like root, third, seventh, ninth, didn't make sense to you, then I would highly recommend you get familiar with this. This is your bare bones basic music theory. And once you have a grasp on it and you can view your fretboard via intervals, your playing will drastically improve. As always, practice with a backing track or a band to stay in time, and of course, playing in all keys. If you have any questions or would like to share any of your own licks or ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to contact us at rgtcanada.com. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.